Hello and welcome to another episode of the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Connor Moreno, lead writer for UCLA Bruins on SI, and I just got done watching UCLA blow out Sacramento State basketball, obviously, on Tuesday. You're listening to this on Wednesday, so I thought we would go ahead and kind of recap the game and give our three boldest observations or boldest takeaways that we took from the game as we do after every contest. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. It was a very interesting game, and that's because of the way that it started. So, the way I titled the recap is that UCLA is kind of battling internally with themselves right now. And I'm not saying that there's any conflict. I don't mean that there's any locker room drama or anything. I just really, truly think that in all games, except for Arizona, maybe Arizona a little bit, but in all of the other games against kind of these middling teams like Sac State, Pepperdine, Eastern Washington, I think UCLA is playing against themselves mostly rather than playing against the opponent. I really think that they're doing a lot of stuff to hold them back from reaching their true potential in each of the games. We've seen different instances on why that's the case. But anyways, UCLA blows out Sacramento State 79-48, but it really didn't come easy. The biggest thing that we saw to begin the game is that Mick Cronin benched four of his usual starters. He benched Donovan Dent, he benched Tyler Bilodeau, he benched Xavier Booker, and he benched Sky Clark as well. In their places, you had Trent Perry, you had Jamar Brown, you had Brandon Williams, Stephen Jamerson III. Eric Daly Jr. was the only starter to remain in the starting lineup. I just finished watching his postgame, and he said that he doesn't really believe in messages, that he started the people that he thought going into this game were going to give him the best chance to win the game. And how did he determine it? Practice yesterday. He said that that group won by 20 in yesterday's scrimmage. He felt that they were going to set the tone for the game, and they truly did. They really set the tone. They didn't let Sacramento State score in the first 6 minutes of the game. They got out to, I believe it was like a 20-4 lead, and before the starters, the regular starters, actually subbed back in. And when the starters subbed back in, I think they really, continued on the tone. But about midway through the first half is when UCLA's offensive struggles kind of persisted. And, we've seen it all of this season except for Arizona game. I really do think I hold that Arizona game in high regard because I really do think that they kind of got closer to their potential and they really rose to the occasion against one of the nation's top teams. But in the other games, against the Pepperdines, against the Eastern Washingtons, against West Georgia, and now against Sacramento State, I think UCLA's offense has just not reached its full potential whatsoever. I don't know what it could be. It could be because Donovan Dent simply isn't, making his shots, and that's one of our big takeaways that we'll talk about later. It could be because a lack of effort, maybe. Who knows? Excuse me. It's pretty late, but yeah, I'm really not too sure. So midway through that through that first half, you saw UCLA's offense kind of falter. But give credit to Sac State; they really picked up the intensity defensively, and I think it really budged UCLA on offense. And then in the second half, the defense fell off a cliff. And Mick Cronin believes that it's because he didn't start the starters. He pointed out he's really high on the deflection stat. He pointed out that in the first half, UCLA had 33 deflections, and in the second half, they only had 9 deflections. And he 100% attributes that to starting his regular starters in the second half and believing that they didn't set an adequate enough tone going into the final half. So it still was a blowout win, but I do think that there are a ton of chinks in their armor, for lack of a better phrase, and I do think that they're still severely limiting their full potential as we get closer to conference play. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into our 3 bold observations, as we title it. The first one was about, his message, and we kind of talked about it a lot. Mick Cronin, he's eccentric. He is one of the biggest characters as a coach in all of college basketball. But there's also a method to his madness, and, the message that he needed to send to almost all of his starters was necessary. it kind of looks like UCLA has been playing down to their opponent. They haven't been able to match the energy that they started with against Arizona, which may be a bit of a silver lining, just in the fact that when they're going to play against, a bigger, better opponent, that they're going to rise to the occasion as they did against the Wildcats. But also, UCLA shouldn't be struggling to assume control for the duration of games against teams like this. It should be easy for them to control the games from start to finish and not have these stretches of basketball where you just feel like nothing materializes and they have no effort, and you look at the bench and you see Mick Cronin just in a frustrating manner telling someone to go sub in for someone. Not if you're going to be a national championship team. You need to be controlling games, and you need to be looking like, the better basketball team against all of these teams that they've played against and all of these teams that they beat. There hasn't been a win this season that you can walk away from it and be comfortable with what you saw. There's always something that you think the Bruins left a lot to be desired with. So that was just and basically the message was, it starts with the starters. You saw it in the first half. The starters, who are usually reserves, they started the game, and they started the game out perfectly and came out with a ton of intensity. And then the second half, when they faltered, it's the starters who started. So our second takeaway is that rebounding is officially a problem. I said that they have the personnel, they have the intangibles, they have the defensive ability to force misses. I think Sacramento State missed 43 shots. They only shot 24% from the field. So defensively, UCLA was clicking. But they have the ability to force these rebounds. Force these misses and generate rebounds. They're just simply not getting it. Whether it's effort or they're just been entirely unlucky throughout the season. I think I'm going to go with the former there. UCLA has been real deficient in getting rebounds, and real deficient on the boards this season. And something like that, especially when it comes to March, could really be a crippling shortcoming. It's gonna really suck if you can't get a rebound in March, because when the games get tough, when the game slows down, when you go into the stretches where you're battling with your opponent, missing shots, you're gonna need to get rebounds. Sacramento State, they had 35 rebounds to UCLA's 44, but they grabbed 13 offensive rebounds. That's 13 extra possessions. If you give 13 extra possessions to any Big Ten opponent, you're in jeopardy of losing that game. So, it was the difference in UCLA entirely blowing out Sac State rather than, I don't want to say just winning by 30, but you know where I'm coming from. So our final takeaway is, when will Donovan Dent's shooting struggles be a concern? He was pegged as one of the best watches in college basketball after his stellar debut. I think against Eastern Washington, he had 21 points and 9 assists. But since then, he's vehemently struggled from the field. He's really struggled to get his shot going. He's still playmaking at a very high rate. I think he had 7 assists today, but he only had 5 points, was 2 for 9 from the field. He was 0 for 3 from 3. He's in a bit of a rut. I wouldn't expect it to last any longer. Point guards especially are skillful enough to overcome these ruts by playmaking like Donovan Dent does, but I do truly believe that it's not going to be too much of a concern, and that as soon as he starts actually making his shots and becoming the scorer that he also knows he can be, that's when UCLA's offense is going to take a step up on the season. So those were our takeaways. That was our recap from the game. Quick recap right after the game. So thank you for watching, and thank you for listening to another episode of the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast, and we'll see you tomorrow.